Today is April 12, 2024. This text, along with illustrations and drawings, can be used by Mr. John Kerry only. Didascalies for translation of a text entitled Oedipus the King by Sophocles, the author of text, set design, choreography, and music, allow us to imagine that on the stage of the theatre of Dionysus in Athens stands the high double doors of the Theban palace. Oedipus stands in this door as the majestic king of Thebes at the beginning of the tragedy, and in this door Oedipus stands as a wounded, blind man with blood flowing from his mutilated eyes at the end of the tragedy. Behind the doors of the Theban palace, the most terrifying moment described in the tragedy, Oedipus the King, takes place. According to the messenger's words, Oedipus pierced his eyes with gold pins torn from the Iacasta's dress, who had hanged herself a moment earlier. If contemporary viewers asked where such a geometric drawing came from, I would give them the key in the form of the concept of a spiral calendar. An indispensable condition for understanding the meanings in the tragedies of the Theban cycle is to familiarize oneself with the spiral calendar presenting the time of one solar year drawn in a symmetrical horizontal relation, the 0 point to its reflection, creating one geometric drawing. The beginning part of the spiral calendar drawing, as well as the whole thing, is the quintessence of pure Pythagorean geometry. It's a graph of right triangles drawn in a systematic way, so that each hypotenuse of a triangle is a side of the next triangle. The exception is the starting point at point 0. By drawing a mirror spiral horizontally relative to point 0, we obtain a graph of a special point with the value of the square root of 314 on a positive spiral. And in the case of a spiral symmetrical horizontally relative to point 0, we obtain the value minus the square root of 314 at the same point. The number 314 is the value of pi. By definition, it is the proportion of the length of a circle's circumference to its diameter. By drawing both spirals symmetrical horizontally relative to the 0 point, we obtain on the vertical axis of the graph the value of square root of 12 and minus square root of 12, passing each other visually, and creating a drawing of an apple or a heart. We plot both spirals to the square root of 43, the square root of 94, and the square root of 366 in both treatments, where the intersection points on the vertical axis are constant. Knowing that a year is 365 days plus a few hours long, and that this is the time it takes for the planet Earth to complete a full circle around the Sun when time creates pi, we need to make a mental leap. It is needed to connect the circular motion of the Earth around the Sun, the time of 365 days, with the geometric drawing of both spirals connected at point of value 0, the square root of 314, and the square root of 365. To assume that such drawing of the spiral do form a representation of a calendar of time equal to one solar year. Time is the soul of this world, said Pythagoras. From the Dictionary of Terminology, quote, circle means amphi or peri. The definition of pi, the ratio of the circumference of a circle equal to 2 pi r, to the length of its diameter equal to 2r. The diameter is the hypotenuse also means, the river horse, hypostamos. Hippocampus is a sea horse carrying nereids on its back in the Greek mythology. Going back to drawing of the heart. From the text of the entire Theban trilogy by Sophocles, Oedipus the King, Oedipus at Colonus, and Antigone, we know that Theseus the Athenian shook hands with daughters of the dying Oedipus over the abyss. A quote from Oedipus at Colonus. In the place where Theseus and Pericles shook hands on the precipice before descending into Hades. On the drawing of both spirals, this is the place above the square root of 314 and minus the square root of 314. Described as the connection of the hands. Moreover, the closed rhombus, as a geometric figure, is incorporated into the mosaic on the floor of the theatre of Dionysus, which the audience looks at throughout the 3 plays performed in one day. The horizontal hippopotamus, as the diameter of the circle representing the time of rotation for 1 year. according to the constellations on the sky, was depicted exactly as the word sounded, as a hippopotamus, often with a crocodile. Ancient astronomers in Egypt and Greece used these concepts to determine time and place on geometry charts, which was made possible by using the spiral calendar. It will be impossible to read the codes contained in Sophocles' Oedipus the King, as well as in the entire The Band trilogy, without combining the geometric drawing of both spirals with the alphabet. The Greek alphabet, with letter signs assigned to characteristic trees, takes on the importance of a guide and a map when we weave it into the geometry of time immortalized on the spiral calendar. It becomes a manifestation of the connection of human intellect and nature by using the constancy of the cyclical division of the solar year into 13 months, marked by the appearance of the full moon every 28 days. Only the combination of the alphabet and the spiral calendar allow us to understand the patterns of time and geometry described by words of the stories. This is how we find geometric places on the spiral calendar. The letter B in square root 358 is December 24th, birch, or wild olive. The letter L is January 21st, rowan. The letter north in square root 49 is February 18th, ash. The letter F in square root 77 is March 18th, alder, or cornel. The letter south in square root 105 is April 15th, willow ss, z, blackthorn. The letter H in square root 133 is May 13th, hawthorn, or wild pear. The letter D in square root 161 is June 10th, oak, or terebinth. The letter T in square root 189 is July 8th, holly, or prickly oak. The letter C in square root 217 is August 5th, narcissi, Q, apple, sorb, or quince. The letter M in square root 245 is September 2nd, vine. The letter G in square root 273 is September 30th, ivy. The letters ing or gn in square root 301 is October 28th, reed, or Gelder rose. The letter R in square root 329 is November 25th, elder, or myrtle. The meaning of such time signs as the astronomical seasons is equally important for understanding Oedipus the King. Because tragedy determines the fate of Oedipus, king of Thebes, by the recognition of the shepherd from Thebes and the shepherd from Corinth, who know that every year for 3 years they drove their flocks to the mountains of Cithaeron, and after a few months brought them back for the winter according to movement of the star Arcturus on the sky, which is part of the constellation called Boötes. Very important for imagining the scale of time geometry used by the ancients is the Greek myth entitled Typhon. It describes the 10-year-long fight of the Greek Zeus with Typhon. All the Greek gods fled to Egypt and hid themselves, taking the form of animals representative of the gods of Egypt. Zeus took the form of ram, Hera took the form of white cow, Apollo took the form of raven, Mars took the form of wild boar, Aphrodite took the form of fish, Artemis took the form of cat, Dionysus took the form of goat, Hermes took the form of ibis. This description of the escape of Greek gods to Egypt is true, provided that the ancient Egyptians used the spiral calendar, just like the ancient Greeks did. The mentioned network of meanings is in the air, as the appearance of the moon every 28 days, and the semicircle drawn in the sky by the sun every day. It is like contemporary installations that are a combination of movement, people, and networks, and the very definition of the installation includes the viewer's participation in the performance. Aristotle considered Sophocles' Oedipus the King to be the most beautiful tragedy. So, I'm reading Oedipus the King. Didascales.